Welcome to Goofy Getaways with your hosts, Amy Blades and Amy Fisher.
Welcome to the Goofy Getaways podcast. If this is your first time here, we are so excited to have you. So just buckle up, take a listen. And if it is a time that you've come back, then we really thank you. This is our 7th podcast, which is unbelievable. So thank you for being here. Hopefully we're giving you some fun content, but always remember that you can let us know what it is that you want to hear too. So I am Amy Blades. I am the CEO of Goofy Getaways, and I am ecstatic to have you here. And I am ecstatic to, of course, be joined with my counterpart, the other Amy, whom I will let introduce herself. But, you don't get the both of us very often, except if you watch the podcast, you do. So welcome to Amy Fisher.
Hello. Yes, I'm Amy Fisher. I am our Vice President of Communication and Development and a travel consultant with Goofy Getaways. And we are so excited for today's episode because we're going to be talking to you about the Disney water parks. Many people don't even realize that Walt Disney World has water parks. And we really wanted to talk about this episode. So we're not sure where you live and when you're watching this. However, if you're near us, Amy B's in Florida and it's cold. Yeah. I'm in Michigan and it's cold. It is very cold. But trust us, we still want to talk to you about the water parks because if you're staying at an official Walt Disney World resort in 2025 on your check-in arrival day, you get complimentary access to the water parks. And in order to talk to you about the water parks, we had to bring in our Goofy Getaways expert, someone who actually used to be a lifeguard for Walt Disney World, including at the water parks. So special guest, will you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Kathryn Cyr-Lopez. I am a agent of Goofy Getaways, and as Amy Fisher mentioned, I was a water park lifeguard for both Blizzard Beach and Typhoon Lagoon, with Blizzard Beach being my home park. And I did it for about 3 years. So with the lifeguarding, I also did park orientations and trainings.
Oh, and still like your everyday real job, you still are certified lifeguard, and correct? I mean, still, So
like
you didn't even get away from
aquatics
it.
is my life.
Yes.
I just can't get away from it.
Hey.
So Kat knows all things water for us, and is going to give us so many different tips and tricks. My first time at Blizzard Beach, my first time ever at a Disney water park was with Kat, and it was such a cool experience because she knew so many details that most people don't even realize. It's super cool. Amy, have you and your family done the water parks before though?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we have.
Okay.
Typhoon Lagoon was our very first water park that actually, River Country. I don't know if you even remember that. Mm-hmm. That was our first water park. But Typhoon Lagoon, and then, of course, Blizzard Beach, because I think, we've lived down here a couple different times intermittently. But as an annual pass holder, I did add the water parks for us because it's so hot in the summertime. And I really do enjoy going to the water parks, quite honestly. But we'll talk about that, and all it has to offer and why it is that I enjoy the water parks. But yeah, we do. We like them very much. I have to chuckle because even though living down here, I check in this week because it's also marathon time. Not sure everyone's going to see this, but of course I have my free water park day, which I have my annual pass, but I just have to chuckle for everyone that's coming because it's supposed to be so cold. So I'm kind of curious to hear what Kat has to say about that, and maybe what she's experienced with the cold and if they stay open, because I'm curious to see.
Yeah, I think she's planning on talking a little bit about that later on, but let's kick it off. So, Kat, we're going to talk about the water parks, right? And I think we're going to kick it off talking about your home park, Blizzard Beach, because that's the water park that's open at this point in time when we're recording this episode. So, Kat, what can you tell us about Blizzard Beach?
So first off, let's go over the story of Blizzard Beach. Okay. It's a fun one. So, a while back, there was a freak snowstorm that hit Walt Disney World. I mean, just tons and tons of snows piled down on one section of the Walt Disney World Resort. And they're like, well, what are we going to do? We have all this snow. And the Disney Imagineers are like, perfect. We'll build Florida's first and only ski resort. We have all this snow. So plans go into place. Everything starts going up. They're building ski jumps and different runs. Chairlift goes up. And then it's Florida. So it gets warm again and everything starts melting. And they're like, oh no, what are we going to do? We just put all this money into building this like ski resort, and now it's all just going to waste. So all of a sudden, they hear this gigantic Yahoo from the top of the mountain, and they see this gator on skis careening down the mountain out of control. He flies off the mountain ski jump, off the roof of the locker rooms, and crashes into the side of the building. And so that's it. They're like, all right, we're going to take this and make it into a water park. And that's where you get Blizzard Beach. Now, fun fact, when you walk into Blizzard Beach and you're walking past the gift shop, you see Ice Skater's body smash into the gift shop. You can see the outline of where he crashed through the building. You can see his ski marks on the top of the locker rooms. It's all there. So their mascot is the Ice Skater.
Okay.
That is so
That
cool.
makes
Okay, so
sense.
what's the mascot's official name?
Ice Skater.
Ice Skater. I love
Yep.
that.
I
And
think
his
so,
house
too.
is on the lazy river. So you can go past
That
his
is
house.
so good. See, now next time I go, I'm going to look for all these things. I love
and
details.
most of the time you won't see him because he's sick in the house with a cold, and he will sneeze and water's going to fly out and get you.
Oh my
All right.
gosh, that is so fun about like the mascot and such cool details. I love that. Thank you for sharing that story, Kat.
Yeah.
So we know you've gone to Disney. You've obviously worked at Disney for a long time, but you've also gone to Disney with your niece and things like that. What kind of kids areas does Blizzard Beach have? Because we know they've got water slides, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But like, what are the things if you've got littler kids that still want to go play and enjoy the water park?
Okay, so what's really cool about Blizzard Beach is they have two kids areas. So they have Pikes Peak, which is more of like your preschool, real little kids area. And the cool thing about it is when you go to Pikes Peak and you look at it, it's designed to be a miniature version of the water park as a whole.
Oh, very cool.
That's cute.
Yeah.
Never realized that.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Very
And there,
cool.
they've actually reimagined it. So you get to see some of your friends from Frozen. So Olaf and some of those characters, that's where they're going to be hanging out as little figurines in it. But there are 3 different little kid water slides, a little shallow area for them to splash and play with stuff to climb on, and just some play structures and some sandboxes. So that's going to be for your real little kids.
Awesome.
And then once they get a little bit older, there's the ski patrol training camp. And I'll tell you, there's some stuff there that I wish I could do. I mean, one of them I got to do, but one they wouldn't let us do, which is like they have a zip line. Like, so you like hold on and you go and it throws you off into the water at the bottom. But you have to be under 5 feet tall to do it. So yeah, that one's a bump. It always looks like fun. I never got to do that one. But also in Ski Patrol, you have a couple more water slides, and then they have icebergs for you to cross. So they're these giant floating icebergs, and there's nets up ahead, and you have to cross over. And so that's designed for kids under the age of 12.
Okay.
And it almost looks like a little mini ropes course over the water, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, so like you fall off, you're falling into the water. There's some icebergs just floating in the water to play with. There's also 0 depth entries. So those that have mobility issues, you can just slowly and gradually get into the water. You don't have to worry about going up and down stairs, which is really nice.
That's awesome. Love that.
And now parents cannot go on that, but do they have to, when at the water park?
Yeah.
It's been years since I've had like really little ones. Can they just go? I mean, obviously not the little teeny tiny ones, but like your 10, 11, 12. And then, oh, that's fantastic because the guards are watching.
And the thing is like, yeah, they can just go. And kids get lost a lot because they just go, especially like Lazy River and the Ski Patrol was great. It's Disney. All the cast members are trained what to do. And there's also a lost children stand at each of the water parks. So there's a designated spot at the park that if anyone gets lost, they're going to radio it out and guide people there to meet up. So that's really helpful with that.
Okay.
That's awesome. And the lifeguards are so attentive they're Kat and I've had these conversations because again, like Kat's a lifeguard. I used to be a lifeguard as well. But the lifeguards at whether it's the Disney pools or the Disney water parks, they are so incredibly attentive. Like they are constantly scanning the water. So yes, they want parents to still please pay attention to your children.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, like you have some of the best trained lifeguards around, ready to go, ready to respond if something happens, you know, again, heaven forbid, but like it so safe, so fun, so that the kids can just go and like enjoy it, and the parents can have that peace of mind that even if they're not a great swimmer, like they can just kind of like watch their kid have a good time and enjoy it.
And that, I guess, was kind of my point too, I guess, and what I was saying. Like, I definitely don't think people need to just like release their children to go run around the water park by any stretch. I just meant, obviously, if parents can't do those things and the kids are going, I was just curious how that
works. And I can say, being in the aquatics, like I'm a aquatics director, I oversee lifeguards, I lifeguard to the thing. For me to go somewhere and relax by water, it's very hard because it's hard to turn that part of me off. Like I always want to watch, I always want to be paying attention. I see the kid that's a little too close, no one's around, and I'm watching them the whole time. However, at Disney, they're so good at what they do and they're paying so much attention that I feel like I can actually relax and enjoy it. And I think that there in of itself is saying something about the quality and standards of safety that they have.
100%.
Also with the kids is Disney does life jackets for free.
Yes.
So if your child can't swim or if they're getting tired because they've been swimming all day, you can go get that life jacket. Yeah. There is no cost to it. You don't have to worry about bringing your own floaties. They are there, readily available, and easy to have access and get.
Yeah. And they even have sizes that are big enough. Like if you're an adult and you're like, hey, I don't feel like I'm a strong swimmer or I'm not super confident. They have all different sizes so that anybody can also be able to use those life jackets. So I love that that's true at the water parks and the pools. Correct, Kat?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
Amazing.
Like, we love that. And that kind of leads into, let's talk about the next piece of Blizzard Beach, which is my personal favorite part of Blizzard Beach, is the lazy river that they have there. Right? So people, if they're like, if they don't feel confident, they can throw on a life jacket and hop into the lazy river. But Kat, talk to us about the lazy river at Blizzard Beach.
Yeah, so the lazy river at Blizzard Beach, it's amazing. It goes around the circumference of the park. So you need to get somewhere in the park. Save your legs. Like Disney, you're doing tons of walking. Water parks, you don't have to. Get in that lazy river and ride it to where you want to go. Throughout the lazy river, you're going to see theming throughout. Like I said, you're going to see Ice Skater's house. You're going to see his garden. You're going to see a snowmaker that's no longer making snow, so it's just spraying out water. There's a cave that you're going to go through under the mountain, and you're going to see the snow melting and coming down. Good news, for those that don't want to get soaked or splashed, the Blizzard Beach lazy river, you can navigate your way so you're not getting splashed, which in my feeling is a wonderful thing. I don't like being splashed in my face. I really don't. Mm-hmm. Also with the lazy river, there are several different floating options, different kinds of tubes, multiple person, single person, ones that your bottom sits in and you're in the water, ones that have bottoms in it that you can put your little ones to sit in. And if you just want to swim, then you can just swim around the lazy river too.
Yeah. And it feels so good, doesn't it? Like that
floating.
Like, Kat and I, the first time that we did it, we went during the 50th anniversary. Okay, so we were at Walt Disney World on October 1st. Yeah. It was magical, but let me tell you, that was a lot. And so we were like, okay, let's build in a rest day and let's go to the water park on our rest day. And just being able to float in the lazy river felt so good on our legs and on our backs. It was like, tell me we're getting old without telling me we're getting old.
You also can mobile order your food and then float to the exit and pick up your food. Just
can't eat the food on the lazy river.
No, you can't, but you can save your legs.
Order it, pick it up, then jump back in. Is there an age requirement for the lazy river?
There is not.
So parents can take their little, okay. Yeah.
Yes. And there's also select entrances, because there's several entrances.
Yes.
But select ones have disability access. So there's stairs that it starts off the level of a wheelchair. So someone can slide over and then slide their way down. So it is something that, regardless of abilities, you're able to get in. There's not, any hindrance there. There's
nice. That's really nice. Yeah.
So cool. So cool. And such a great way for people to be able to enjoy it. And the main like wave pool area is also 0 entry at Blizzard Beach. Is that correct, Kat? So it's very accessible.
That is correct. And at both water parks, they do have water wheelchairs. So they're wheelchairs that you don't have to get your chair wet. You can rent one, like borrow one of these, and you can wheel it out so far so you can get in.
I like that. I'm really glad that you mentioned that. That's something that we need to be talking about more, like even as an agency. Because I know people that wouldn't want to go to the water park for that reason. So I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Yeah. And so since we're talking about that, at Blizzard, obviously you have to walk up tons of stairs to get to the top of the slide.
Oh, yeah.
There is a chairlift being a ski resort, so you can take the chairlift. And one of them is a gondola. So if you are someone that is in a wheelchair, they can load you in your wheelchair on the gondola and you can travel to the top of the mountain and access most of the water slides from up there.
That's fantastic. I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
It makes it so cool that like anyone in your family can come and be a part of like a fun water park day and be able to enjoy it. Again, no matter what anybody is experiencing physically, it's so nice that they have that, right, Kat?
100%. Yeah.
And there's even ways like with some of the slides where they'll send the wheelchair in a tube down before you go down, and then your wheelchair's waiting at the bottom for you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so nice that they have those opportunities for people. And then remind me if I'm correct. So especially at Blizzard Beach, there are sections that are sandy if people want to sit like in chairs where it's sandy. However, Blizzard Beach has a lot of like really nice chair areas that do not require you to go in the sand. I feel like you and I enjoyed that if I'm remembering correctly.
And it's nice because it's all throughout the park. So you have the sandy areas and they're mixed together. So it's not like you're stuck in one area. So like if you're putting down camp by the wave pool, let's say. So majority of that seating is in the sands, but then there is a section of it that you can pick chairs that aren't in the sand. So if you don't want to be in the sand, you don't have to, which is lovely.
Nice.
I really appreciate that.
And that's super helpful. Like if somebody's traveling with anybody in their party who has any texture type of, right? So if somebody gets really uncomfortable with like the feeling of sand between their toes and things like that, there's lots of fun things that you can do in the water park that don't require you walking through the sand or being seated. Or if you're just like, I don't want a sandy bag to take back home.
Right. Exactly.
I love it. Oh yes. That's so awesome. I feel like, okay, we need to talk about, I know you started to mention it with the ski lift, but like, let's talk about what water slides, what fun attractions are there at Blizzard Beach.
So Blizzard Beach, if you are a water slide person, then Blizzard Beach, top-notch water slides right there. So you have all different ones. They're broken into different color slopes, and there's not intensity. You have a mix. So you have red, green, and yellow, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. So there's a mix. So there's not all like intense ones, not all like not so intense ones. So Blizzard Beach does hold a few records. So you have Summit Plummet, which as soon as you walk in, you're going to see it as the really tall one. It is the tallest free-falling water slide in North America, the second tallest one in the world.
I won't do it. People that do it, more power to you. No,
you'll get the wedgie of your life.
I was like, Kat, have you done it?
I'll have a panic attack on my life.
Multiple times. Actually, one of the jobs is to test it out before the park opens, and I did that a few times.
Nope.
You'll also get the coolest view of Walt Disney World from up there because you're so high up, you can see all the other theme parks from the top of Summit Plummet. So that one, if you're looking for thrills, the one next to it, which a lot of people skip or don't think it's as intense because it's not tall. Slush and Gusher, you go over these 2 bumps, right? Well, when you hit that second bump, you hit it just so that you're going to lift up off that slide a little bit before going down. So if you're into big thrills, those are both good thrill ones. And they have a 48-inch height requirement. So they do. Now, with that, you also have the family raft ride, which is the world's longest family raft ride. And
I've done that.
It's pulled up to 8 people, and it's a blast.
It's a good time.
And for that, the requirement is like if you have little ones, as long as they can sit and hold on, they're going to be okay to ride.
Okay. And
Awesome.
obviously life jackets for your little ones. If
Yeah,
you're comfortable
it is
with
gonna
that or
like
whatever,
end
but
in water where you're gonna stay seated in that raft almost all the way till
Okay.
it's like knee height and jump out.
yeah.
There's a
So then
lifeguard
you're
at the
fine.
bottom there.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's also ones that you're like sledding, so you're laying on like these mats that are like toboggans, and you
Oh,
race
yeah.
down, or you go like through moguls down, and then you have your tube slides. One times you, so it's like a race. You and another person go at the
Okay.
same time. You can check your time at the bottom. So if you're competitive, that's a fun one to do.
Not at all. I'm
And
not
there
at
is,
all.
you know,
I think
your
Kat and I
typical-
did that back then.
all in the dark water slide too.
Oh yeah. No, that's awesome that they have that. That's
Yeah, and
fantastic.
what's cool with that one is if you stay seated in your tube, when you get to the bottom, it'll float you all the way to the stairs. So don't jump out right away. Just take the ride to the stairs and then climb.
Oh, see? Inside tips.
I feel like that's true for a decent number of water slides. Like people automatically, like they
Yeah.
get to the bottom and they hit the water and they're like, oh, I need to jump out of my tube. And it's like,
Yeah.
give it a second because it's going to push you much closer to the stairs and make your life 1,000 times easier.
Yeah.
To get out.
And then, as we talked, there's those water slides. Outside of that, there is the wave pool. So Blizzard Beach's wave pool is going to be bobbing, rolling waves. So if you're looking for big
100% my
waves, you're
jam.
not going to get that. It's just going to be bobby, rolling ones. And they do have some tubes allowed in their wave pool. Speaking of the tubes, they're included. So you don't have to rent one. It's just there. Go in the lazy river. They're there.
I love that.
They're just available. You're not paying extra for those.
Yeah, I love that. And you're not having to drag them from one spot to another because they just kind of stay in the water or they're right next to. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so
For sure.
awesome. Okay, is there anything else? Like, I know we're going to cover some details like towel rentals and some of that about both of the parks when we're done chatting about them. Is there anything else that we really need to know about Blizzard Beach before we start talking about the other water park, Typhoon Lagoon?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. I mean, we've got more to this podcast, so hang tight, people. But,
Yeah.
okay, so we've talked about Blizzard Beach, and then we have the other water park, Typhoon Lagoon. This one tends, right now, it seemed like it was open more during like the summer months.
I would agree.
If you listened to episode 6 of our podcast and we talked about the Run Disney after event that happens in a water park, this is at Typhoon Lagoon. And it is the splash after party that happens at Springtime Surprise. But Kat's going to tell us all about Typhoon Lagoon. And if I'm understanding correctly, there is a fun park story and mascot for Typhoon Lagoon as well.
There
Okay.
is.
Let's hear it.
So there was this pristine tropical paradise, and all of a sudden a typhoon comes and wreaked havoc on it. So it threw ships and fishing gear and surfing gear all over the place. Miss Tilly, this lovely little boat, went flying and landed on top of Mount Mayday. So you just have all this wreckage everywhere. And Miss Tilly still sits there to this day. And so from that wreckage, they had all these paths, and that's where you get the slides for Typhoon Lagoon. Now, fun fact about Miss Tilly, she is kind of their thing. She can still be heard to blow her whistle. About every 30 minutes to an hour, you're going to hear her sound, and some big waves are going to come after that. She'll also blow water out. So that's kind of the background in Typhoon Lagoon. You're going to see airplanes crash and just the devastation from this typhoon that came through. Now, Typhoon's mascot is Laguna Gator. So we have Ice Gator at Blizzard Beach and Laguna Gator at Typhoon Lagoon. And you'll see her house is a little shack up kind of towards the wave pool area. And if you look in, you'll see her little hammock and places to hang out. So that's going to be Typhoon. So they both have that gator, that different gators, but those are the water park mascots.
So crazy that Florida came up with gators as their
I
mascots.
know. Wonder where that came from.
I don't know. No idea. Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, so we kicked off Blizzard Beach where we talked about the kids areas. So let's talk about kids areas over at Typhoon Lagoon and what's available for them because let's be honest, families go to Disney.
Yeah, so you have Catch a Kitty Creek.
Yeah.
which is the kids area over at Typhoon. And there's just going to be the one kids area there. So there
Because it is smaller, right?
It
I mean,
is
it's a
smaller.
smaller water park.
Yeah.
Typhoon Lagoon happens to be my favorite, probably because it is a little smaller, but so that's why there's one, because it's smaller. Okay.
Yeah. And it's older than what Blizzard
Yes.
is. So, and it's going to be more, I mean, there's stuff there for all ages. The water slides, unlike, having the two at Blizzard, it's going to be more for the littler kids. The water slides in that kids area. But then there's other things, like there's all these different spray features that they can run around and play, burn off energy, get wet, enjoy the sun.
Yeah.
It almost looks like a full-on like splash pad area over there. Like Blizzard Beach is more like, I mean, it's kind of a splash pad, but also like a little bit of like a shallow zero entry pool, whereas like Catch Kitty Creek is more what I would think of like a traditional splash pad. So super fun for all ages, really, like younger kids to enjoy for sure.
Now there is another little water slide that's not like in Ketchikiddee Creek, and not many people realize it's there. But when you're at the wave pool, to the side of it, there's a spot that doesn't get the waves as much, but there's also a small water slide there for kids to go on.
Okay.
Yeah, and that one, it gets overlooked. So, but there's, it's under, I forget the height, but you have to be under a certain height to be able to ride in it, and it's just a little slide that lets you out in the quieter part of that wave.
Very cool.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I do love the wave pool. The wave pool is my favorite.
Okay, well, let's straight up talk about the wave pool, because
all right.
Okay, so we talked about bobbing waves at Blizzard Beach.
Yes.
What's
if you're a wave pool person, Typhoon's where you're going to want to go, because you're going to get those big waves. So I want to say it's a 5-foot wave every 90 seconds. So it's just
Can I say
big wave
that
comes and knocks everyone.
Lesson learned on Typhoon Lagoon. So I do think the wave thing is awesome. I personally don't like to go like all the way out. Great option for people that do. I just like to kind of stand in the middle and just, kind of whatever. And I'm like, you know what? I think that I'm just going to move back a little bit more towards the shore, and I'm just going to sit. And then when the wave comes, it'll just kind of splash me.
Oh. The lifeguards already know what you're going to say.
I thought I was going to die. And the lifeguards are incredible, because this big girl, that wave moved me so far. And I mean, I'm like tumbling around. Lesson learned. Like, and I tell people this now when you go. And I actually had one of my son's girlfriends went with us, and she's a tiny, tiny little thing. Great idea here. And I want to also just give a little perk for first aid at the water parks, but we had to go to first aid because it literally slid and like skinned her. I mean, it's not funny now, even looking back. But when we walked up, they didn't even have to ask us what happened. Like, must be, I'm not the only person that thinks it would be a really good idea to sit in the back and just feel the waves, like I was thinking, pretend like I'm at the beach. But they were spot on, and they were amazing, and they actually treated her very quickly. But lesson learned on that. It is super, super fun, but never actually sit on the shore. And now I know why.
Yes. And then like twice a day, they do have times where you're going to get those bobbing waves, and it's a set time. And you
can just sit and enjoy
relax,
the water.
but most of the time it's going to be that big wave. And like you said, it's going to knock you over. You can wear life jackets in there. There's just a certain point that you can't go out too far with your life jacket on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a certain point that you can't go past either. So super important for people to remember, and the lifeguards will 100% let you know. But like there's a certain point where, because this happens in every wave pool, like in order for them to draw water back to create the next wave, they have to like rope off a certain section, because they don't want you to get sucked into like any of their wave machine things. So please, 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 if you're going to any, can you tell I also used to be a lifeguard? If you're going to any type of a water park, please make sure that if you see some type of a rope or a barrier, don't go under it or around it. It's there for a reason.
If the lifeguard tells you no, it's for a reason.
It's for a reason. And 99% of the time, it's a safety-based reason. So please, please don't play that game. But the wave pool is super fun. Definitely a good idea to wear a life jacket. Like we've seen full grown adults standing out there and they just get whoosh knocked right over with the waves. I bet Kat has all kinds of stories that she's not allowed to actually tell about things that happened at the water parks.
Yeah, I mean, when you first start lifeguarding and go at wave pools, intimidating to lifeguard at first.
Oh, 100%. I can see why.
Yeah.
And Kat, that wave pool, they do surf lessons in there, correct?
They
do all sorts. I got to take the surf lessons once. They were short on people, so they asked me to show up and pretend to be a guest and take the surf lessons.
Yeah, I've had clients do that quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, and then they also do like surf, like you can rent out the wave pool to surf in. When I was there, a company, which I'm not going to say which one, rented out the wave pool so they could film a commercial because that way they could use controlled waves. And it was really cool. Is the way the wave pool works is a system of chambers and doors and filling chambers, and they can control the height of the waves. Not only that, for those surf events, they can control which way the waves break. So you can have the wave break right, left, make A's.
That's cool. Really cool.
Yeah.
I miss that they used to have the snorkeling. Do you remember that?
I loved lifeguarding in there with all the sharks.
I wish that they would bring that back. That's probably the number one thing that people ask me about at Typhoon Lagoon. It's been gone for a while, but
it has.
Yeah, it was a really popular thing.
Fish got, like the sharks and stuff got too friendly. They got moved to Epcot.
Oh, in the big
in the sea. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
And the animal caretakers from the seas would come over and take care of the fish and stuff at the snorkel.
Wow. Okay.
That's still going to be a solid no for me. Like if that ever came back, guarantee you the one section of the park I will never, ever be in is anywhere that has live sharks.
They're more afraid of you than you are of them. Like if it's just
I guarantee you, for me, that's not the case.
It's like it is opposite.
If it's just the lifeguard in the water, they would swim all around. But as soon as guests are coming in, they would go down to the bottom and just
get scared.
That's where they would stay, unless it was feeding time.
That's really cool that they used to have that though, because
it was popular. Yeah, and I really have people ask me about that. I mean, I probably have, maybe it doesn't sound like a lot, but I bet you at least 5 people a summer will ask me about that, which with it being so long since it's been there is a lot.
Yeah.
I was like, almost a decade that it's been
gone now?
It's been a
long time since it's been gone.
Yeah. Yeah. So
before COVID. Yeah.
That's cool though. But okay. So that was something that used to be there, but let's talk about something that is still there that people for sure enjoy. Let's talk about the lazy river that's at Typhoon Lagoon, because they also have fun, even though it's not my personal favorite.
So the lazy river at Typhoon. So Blizzards goes around the circumference of the park. Typhoons, it's going to go around the wave pool, but you can still use it to access everything. So their lazy river goes around the wave pool with all the attractions, the water slides sitting on the outside of it. So you can still use it to float around. It's still going to have those handicap access. Different scenery, different spray things. The big downfall, in my opinion, to that lazy river is there are spots where you have to go under waterfalls and there's no avoiding it.
And they're strong waterfalls. Like they're
like my mom keeps getting her face wet and she got stuck under it and it was not pleasant.
Yeah.
So if you don't like getting splashed in the face, that is hard because there are spots where you just can't avoid that. The rest of it is great.
Yeah. Super fun, super beautiful scenery because like Kat was describing when she told the park story, right? So Typhoon Lagoon is based off of more of like a tropical paradise type of an idea. So you like float around, you're like, it's so beautiful. I'm on vacation. I actually feel like I'm on vacation versus sometimes how we feel when we're running around the actual theme parks. Right? But agree. It's so beautiful at Typhoon Lagoon, and it like that lazy river is lovely, other than the waterfall spot where you're like, nope. Fun tip, I wear a hat when I'm in the lazy river so that it helps to keep the water, like I kind of like duck my head with my hat so that, my hat is soaking wet, but at least that way it's not splashing my face.
Yeah. Plus, like, I always wear my glasses and then it's like either glasses or sunglasses and yeah,
for sure. Okay, So we talked a little bit about the lazy river. We've talked about the wave pool at Typhoon Lagoon. Let's talk about some of the attractions because they actually have aqua coasters at Typhoon Lagoon too.
Yes, they have water coasters. So you have Crush and Gusher, which is their water coaster. Now, fun fact with that one, there is an elevator. So those that can't walk the stairs up, they're still able to partake and take the elevator up to the top. And then when you get in line, you're going to see 3 listed. So different names. There's like Banana Blaster, Coconut Crusher, and I forget the other one. But there's 3 of them. Each one of those is a different slide path and a different slide experience. So don't do just one and be like, okay, yeah, that was cool. Try them all out because each one's different. And then everyone's going to have one that's their favorite. Now, some of them, one person can go on the tube by themselves. Some do require that 2 people be in that tube.
Should we share our pro tip from when we did it, Kat?
Let's share it because I feel like it's a very good one for people to know and it makes for a much more pleasurable experience.
So pro tip, if you're doing one of the aqua coasters and you have 2 people in your party and you're doing like one of the double coasters, the smaller person sits in front.
Because of how afraid they are, put them in the front.
Put them in the front because otherwise the moment that you hit the bottom of the water, you will flip. Oh. Speaking from personal experience. Doesn't that sound fun, Amy Blades? Shouldn't we do this?
The person in the front is going to go right
in the front and we will be just fine.
And the person in the back goes flying over.
Yes.
Nope.
We have some video evidence. I will see if we can find it. But we have video evidence of us like legitimately flipping. It was myself and Melissa, our friend, and Kat was the one to like snap a photo. And all you can see is like Melissa in the air and I'm under the water.
Yeah, no.
I think Melissa has actual video footage of her under.
Yes, her video was recording like while we're under the water. Yes.
Rachel, this is why you want to stay till the end of this podcast for Amy's all in, because this is why I'm going to tell you my all in, because that is not all in at all for me.
Now, if you sit properly in it with the smaller person in front, you're going to float all the way to those stairs nicely.
Yes. It's a fabulous experience.
Then they should tell you that when you get on, like, hey.
Usually they do, so I'm not sure.
I think they just probably thought it was funny, and we were both adults, and
I was have fun.
And I was talking about the fact that I was a lifeguard, and they're like, all right, well, this idiot, like, let's just let her go.
We're going to let her be a lifeguard as she flips over.
So that one does have the height requirement on it, but what's really cool is if you have littler ones, there's a part where it's roped off and off to the side. There's a shallow area that they can swim and play in while the older ones go on the slide.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's a water coaster. Then you got 2 family raft rides. The one's been there for a while. And for that one, you have to roll your tube up the stairs. So it's going to take some teamwork and you're going to get soaking wet, but it's fun. Then the other one is their new one, Misadventure Falls. And that one's kind of cool because you enter the raft and then you ride the conveyor belt up to the top of the slide and ride it back down again. Yeah. That one, just be prepared to laugh.
The entire time.
The entire time.
Yeah.
And you're going to get wet and it's so much fun.
Amy, have you and your family done that one yet?
No, but I'm thinking we're going to have to.
Yeah, you totally have to. Or let's make it better. Let's put the 2, like, you need to ride it with me.
Yes.
Because it'll be way more entertaining that way.
Yes.
Even better, you and me and Chuck.
Oh,
like your husband. Because I feel like he's going to be like, I'm never riding with you 2 anyway.
You 2 again.
There's lots of waterfalls. Like when we rode it, we felt the need to yell waterfall every time there was a waterfall.
Okay, we will have fun though. And Amy's part of our family anyway, so we could do it. Our family, and that would be great. Okay, stay tuned. We may have footage of that someday.
Stay tuned. Be sure to check our social media channels because I'm sure I'll post a video of that. Assuming that no colorful language comes out. That's my big error that comes out when I'm on rides.
Yeah.
So then outside of those coasters, you do have a couple tube slides and then a couple body slides. So they have the Humunga Cowabunga, which is like their body slide.
Okay.
And It used to be one of the biggest. Now with like Blizzard and stuff, it's not as big, but it's still fun. Get good speeds and a great wedgie.
I
Be sure
mean,
if you ride those and you're wearing a bikini, just be cautious of your top.
okay. Can we just say wear whatever you want to wear? Wear whatever you want to wear.
Yeah.
Going to a water park, though, I think a one piece is probably the best for. I mean, that would be like my biggest fear.
Or wear like a really secure two-piece. Like the
something
string
coming
ones
off.
are probably not a great
Yeah.
choice if
Yeah,
you're
no,
planning
you
to do the
have
water
it.
slides. Like if you're
Fine.
planning to do any of the slides.
Like
yeah.
I've always been like very worried about. Yeah, no, I'll stick to the one piece. And
Thinking
I
of
can
like
tell you lifeguarding, telling people, ma'am, and like nonchalantly like trying to like adjust without.
yeah.
speaking of that, I do have a little bit of a question, Kat. So like
Yeah.
as far as the water slides and things like that go, so let's say somebody is wearing like a bikini, but they like to wear a t-shirt over top or their swimsuit or whatever. Are people allowed to wear, just I know that there's official swim shirts that are for sure allowed, but like are people allowed to wear a t-shirt or any of those kinds of things?
Yeah.
Cover up.
So I'm like, you're not gonna be allowed to wear like cut off jean shorts and like
Into the slides.
but like t-shirts
Okay.
are fine. And
Okay. Love that. Are there certain slides where, so I know a lot of people like to wear like sandals or water shoes around water parks. I know we're kind of digressing a little bit, but since this topic came up, it's all fresh in my head at the moment. But are you allowed to wear like your water shoes or your like sandals on the slides? Are there some that maybe
a lot
you
of
can't?
times what they're going to have you do like the body slides, you can't wear it while you're riding the slide because actually it's going to get stuck and hit the slide.
Stop, yeah.
It doesn't work. So a lot of times they'll have you hold them in your hands.
Oh, okay.
Like we like to I wear my glasses, so I'll have to hold my sunglasses in my hands. Same thing, like if you wear like one of those little cases with your phone around your neck, they're going to have you hold on to it. I will say, like, if you're there and you're sick of taking shoes on and off, they do have spray features on the ground. So as you're walking around, there's water being sprayed on the ground. So the concrete's not getting super hot and burning your feet.
Okay.
And there's a decent amount of shade in both of the parks too, like especially around the walking paths. Like the
I would
wave pool
agree.
areas are super, super open, but like the walking path sections, there's actually a
Yes.
decent amount of shade around those, which is also
I would
nice that
agree.
if you're like, hey, I want to get into the shade, there's spots. There's not a ton of chairs in the shade necessarily on purpose, but like there are some good spots.
And that ground gets cleaned regularly.
I bet.
I love it. I love
Speaking of
it.
shades and walking and seating, most of your seating in Typhoon will be in sand. It's very hard to find seating at Typhoon that's not in sand.
Yeah.
So this kind of leads into a question for, and I think Amy Blades, you might even know the answer to this one too, but like, so there are cabana type things at both of the parks to rent, right? So at Blizzard Beach, there's that opportunity. So it kind of gives like your party
That's
its own private section as well.
That's my all in, baby.
So there's two different options for that. So there's ones that is just a reserved umbrella with two
Which
lounge
still is nice.
chairs,
If
which is
you're
still nice.
still really nice.
It is. And it's a reserved spot. You don't have to worry about people taking your spot. And then the other spot is there's like little reserved patio
I love them.
areas, and they're
Yeah.
throughout. So there's upgraded chairs, nicer, there's coolers, and you have an attendant.
Shade.
So there's shade. You're
Yeah.
gonna get towels. They're gonna go get your
Yeah.
food for you. If you want a drink, they'll
Yeah.
go get your drink for you. So there's that option too.
Perfect. The ones that are just the chair and umbrella, are those in the sand or are those out of the sand or are there some of each?
They're in the sand.
Okay, that's what I thought. So just as again, that heads up for people, since we talked about like at Blizzard Beach, that there's for sure seating areas that allow you to like just general seating areas that you don't have to be in the sand. At Typhoon Lagoon, it's really kind of that you have to go with like the patio
You do.
rental option. If you're like, hey, our party doesn't want to sit in the sand, we for sure want our own shade.
And a lot of those patios still will have sand. Like, well, not a lot, but some of them do.
Oh,
So,
most.
like, if
And like the cabanas and the chairs that you get, those are in the sand.
yeah,
They're in the sand.
So a little bit different, just again for people if they're like, oh, Kat, do they have, so I know you mentioned at Blizzard Beach that there's wheelchairs for people to use. Do they have those at Typhoon Lagoon? And are those wheelchairs able to be like taken through the sand or?
So they have the water wheelchairs there able to use. They're going to be a little tricky to, navigate through the sand. They're not designed for sand. For a large portion of those water slides, if you can't do stairs, you're not going to be able to go on them. Because
you can tell that with that being probably the older water park, that is something when they created Blizzard Beach that they really did a good job of. I'm sure that some of it's like guidelines that you have to follow, but customer feedback too, for sure.
Right. So like the newer slides at Typhoon, like the Aqua Coaster and Misadventure Falls, there's definitely those opportunities. The older ones, like I said, they're older, and that wasn't as much of a priority back then when it was built as it is now. The Lazy River is going to have those options still to be able to get in. They have the wheelchairs to water wheelchairs. So
yeah,
there's going to be stuff to do, not quite as much.
Okay. But that's awesome that there are accessibility things at both parks. It just sounds like Blizzard Beach has a little bit more potentially for people. So both of them are going to have some things, but something to keep in mind for your family. Also, kind of on that note for people to be aware of, currently, this could always change, and we always recommend that you check the Disney app for latest park hours. However, currently the way that Walt Disney World is doing their water parks is that they usually have one water park open at a time. So at the moment that we're recording this podcast, Blizzard Beach is the one that's open. But like later this spring, we know Typhoon Lagoon is scheduled to be open. So, and at the moment, it looks like they only have one open at a time.
Last summer was Typhoon Lagoon primarily.
Yeah. And Typhoon Lagoon, like if it's open in the summer, then they're going to have like an after hour event, and you will only get those after hour events at Typhoon. And the reason is, which most people don't know, is Typhoon has lighting throughout the park. So they have enough lighting that they can have the park open and still clearly be able to lifeguard and see the water. Blizzard does not have that lighting. So in the summer, usually they have an after hours H2O glow party, which I haven't been. It's on my bucket list to do. My family has been, and they said it's amazing.
It's so cool because you get like snacks included with that. And so you get the water park that's open and the attractions, but then they're gonna have like special characters out and a dance party and that kind of stuff. Like, do you remember, what did your family tell you was their favorite thing about the H2O glow that they did?
So I don't know if you've ever seen it. There is the Toy Story short with Partysaurus Rex, where Rex goes in the bathtub and like raves. Yeah. And so he was there. And that was like my niece's favorite thing, was like Partysaurus Rex was like DJing out in the party. So they really liked that. It was also like any, special ticketed event. The lines were much shorter, and just, different things like glow sticks and fun, different tubes in the water that were just more like a rave type atmosphere.
Yeah. But like a Disney family friendly rave.
Yes, exactly. Disney family Partysaurus Rex rave, and especially like treats and stuff. So they have that after hours. Run Disney, does stuff there sometimes after hours, like usually with Springtime Surprise. They
did a beautiful event for the Earmark owners last year, and it was in the evening at Typhoon Lagoon, and it was stunning. Yeah. I mean, it was beautiful, just all of it. So I'm glad to know that, though, because I have had people ask me, like, why do they never do these things at Blizzard Beach? So that's a really good tip that you just told us. I mean, it's a safety thing. So no, that's cool. I did not know that.
Yes.
Love it.
And I will also say summer's going to have longer hours. And like this time of year, the hours are going to be shorter.
Yeah. And even during like summer hours, it's a water park. It's not going to stay open as late as the theme parks. But it's a really fun thing to do if you're like, hey, we want a day where we take a break from the theme parks. Or again, if you're flying in or coming into Walt Disney World on your check-in day, if you're staying at an official Walt Disney World resort, you get access to a water park on check-in day. However, again, we're recording this in January, and it is currently scheduled. I think I read on the news that this upcoming week, which granted this podcast will be posted later than that, but like, still on the news, they're talking about it is going to be the coldest in Florida that they've seen in the last like 50 years or something fun like that. So Kat, Do they close for cold temperatures? Like what kind of things might make the water parks closed?
Yeah. So the temperature, I don't remember what the exact one is. It obviously changes pretty regularly, but it has to reach a certain temperature, like a certain degree by a certain time of the day for the water park to open. So if it's not going to reach that, then most likely it's not going to open. And then same thing as even if it reaches that temperature, if it opens and a certain amount of people don't enter the park by noon, there's a good chance that that park's going to close early that day.
Okay.
So that is also something to keep in mind. Then you're outside. So weather permitting is whether the water park's going to be open or not. And I don't know where people get ideas. I've had people be like, well, can't you just put the dome up over the water park so we can keep going? There's no dome that goes over the water
Okay,
park.
well, let me magically
I've
make
had-
that appear.
Right. So there's no dome. So that can't happen. It's not salt water. And even if it was, it doesn't matter. If there's lightning, and they have to get you out. With that being said, there's someone that's going to be monitoring it the whole time. So it has to be within a certain distance. And once it gets within that distance, that's when they're going to pull you out. So it's not, a quick, easy, oh, we heard it once. No, they're watching it. And when it gets in a distance, and then it has to move that distance away. Now, I know like here in Michigan, our weather just moves straight across the strait like that. It's just like boom. Well, in Central Florida, it can go this way and then it comes back this way. So they're watching to make sure that they're not going to reopen and then have to close again in 20 minutes because of weather coming back in. You're not going to be asked to leave the park if it's lightning. You'll get to hang out. There's shelters all over with lightning rods.
Yeah.
It's a safe place to be. You just can't be in the water.
Okay. That was going to be my next question, actually.
Yeah.
Cool.
Love that. Okay, that's super helpful to know because again, people are like, "Oh my gosh, you can't control the weather." And if you're like, "Hey, I want to take advantage of this free water park day on the day I arrive,"
Right.
just be aware that it is weather permitting, that the water park might be closed, but don't worry, there are other things that you can do. But if the weather is working, you should totally go to the water parks. I also want to briefly chat about the food at the water parks because it's actually pretty good. Like people are just like, oh, it's just theme park. Like, no, the water park food is pretty good. So Kat, tell us a little bit about what kind of food can we find at the water parks?
So both water parks, you have the option to get a refillable mug. So the flat rate, and you're gonna be able to fill that mug as much as you want during the day. At the main dining locations, they have the Coke freestyle machines, which are always fun, lots of different varieties. And some of the other refill locations, because there are multiple locations throughout the park, they're gonna have just your regular standard Coke, Diet Coke, Sprite. But at the main one, you got that refillable Coke Zero, which is really
That's awesome. And those mugs only work at the water parks, just as
Yeah.
an FYI for people. They are not the same thing as the resort refillable mugs. But
Right.
if you're planning on spending the whole day in the water park and you enjoy additional beverages,
It's worth it.
100% worth it. Because I think they're like 10 to $15 for the day,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Yeah.
You're
somewhere
going to
around
pay
there.
more than that for,
And it's really easy to get dehydrated at the water parks because you're out in the sun, but you're not realizing it like when you're at the regular park. So then you can get your
Yeah.
Powerade and you want to stay hydrated.
Yes.
Yeah. for sure.
So then
Okay,
when
what
I'm
are some of the snacks though that we can get? Because we've got a beverage. What are our snacks? Because
they have mini donuts, which are amazing.
They are.
Sugar-coated donuts. You can smell them cooking them, like frying them fresh. You walk by, you're on the lazy river, you can smell it from the lazy river, and you're just like, oh my gosh. And then there's different dipping sauces. So you can get raspberry or chocolate, I think maybe white chocolate. So then, yeah, mini donuts, the dipping sauce. And then my other favorite thing is the sand pail. So at both Blizzard and Typhoon, you go to their ice cream spots. So each one has their own, but it is a sand pail of ice cream sundae. So you have an actual sand pail that they fill with ice cream and all different toppings. It feeds a whole bunch of people. And then you can take the sand pail home with you or rinse it out and the kids can have it to play with the rest of the day. And it's really good.
It's
It's
super
cool.
cute. Amy Blades, have you ever done any like fun snacks at the water parks? Have you done like the mini donuts or the
I'm
sand?
not. So I've always smelled them, but I've never had them. So that's gonna be on my list of something I have to do. I'm silly and traditional, and I love just the Mickey bar. I love to get a Mickey bar while I'm at the parks. That's one of my favorite snacks. I tend to not eat a ton, and I think it's because it is hot. So I have to remind myself to drink too, but like my kids are suckers still for chicken nuggets for lunch. And so I love that they have an option for your kids to get what they like for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they
those-
do have some more like unique food options too. So I got like a really good like pork nacho. And they have like some flatbread pizzas and things like that. So if you're like, I don't want chicken nuggets, great. They have some
we've
options.
had the pizzas
for
too. Those
you.
pizzas are really good.
Yeah.
they
Good
have, yeah.
flavors and all that.
They also have like, I know like Typhoon occasionally has like a Hey Hey ice cream cone. So it looks like Hey Hey from Moana.
Okay.
It's like Dole Whip and some other stuff. I don't know. It looks a lot of fun, like a lot of fun.
I think like a day at the water park is, we need to do that this summer, Amy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
For
do like
sure.
Also take your popcorn refillable bucket with you to the water park because they have popcorn there. You can get it refilled.
Yeah, which is
Mhm.
nice.
And
Yeah.
popcorn's a really nice snack when you're sitting out there. Again, please make sure that you're staying hydrated because it's a salty snack, but like super, super good, super easy. And it's pretty cheap to do your refill popcorn bucket for an easy
filling.
snack for the day. And
Yeah. I really like their quick service. Like some of the sandwiches.
It's not bad.
and
Yes.
it's not super heavy. Like they
Yes.
know you're in the water. So it's not going to leave you feeling super heavy. And
Yeah.
I love it.
if you're on the dining plan, the dining plan's going to work there. And
Yeah. Good.
Yep.
Good to
Your,
mention.
yep,
that.
your quick service meal credits will
Yeah.
for sure count there, and snack credits as
Snack
well.
credits.
There are not any table service meals
There are
at
not.
either of the water parks. So just as a word
Right.
warning, if you have the Disney dining plan, there are no like full-on sit-down meals. But you've
there
got great
are-
quick service options that you can
Yeah.
mobile order, like Kat was mentioning too.
And then each water park has a bar.
Oh,
Yes.
of course.
So, If
Why
you're
not
looking
drink and
for
sit at
some
the pool?
adult festive drinks, there are those as well.
For sure. Okay. So there's a couple other things that we need to talk about that are probably going to be common questions that somebody might think of when they're thinking about the water parks. We talked about the fact that, like your inner tubes for the lazy rivers are already included. There's life jackets available. What about towels? What is the towel situation for the water parks, Kat?
So if you need towels at the water park is rental. So you're going to rent the towels. There's towel return bins all throughout. So you can also bring your own towels, or this is my little trick I do is I stay at the Disney resorts. I go to my pool, grab a couple towels from the pool, throw it in my beach bag, and those towels can get returned to the towel bins at the water park.
As well.
Yes. And the towel rentals are, if you're a Walt Disney World resort guest, they're complimentary for you to rent the towels at the water parks. However, if you're not staying in an official Walt Disney World resort, there is going to be a small fee with the towel rentals, just as an FYI for people. But there's lots of towel bins around for you to be able to throw your wet towels back in. If it's your personal towel, please don't throw it in that bin because you won't
get it back.
It's gone.
Exactly.
So we have towel rentals. There are also showers available for people to use at the water parks. There's locker rentals if people want them as well, right?
Yeah, there are locker rentals, and you definitely want to look at the locker rental. People want to be very trusting of people. Today's day and age, you can't always. And the water park's a little different because you set yourself down and then you go off and enjoy. So if you
for longer periods of time, too.
Yeah. So if you have stuff that you don't want left, rent that locker. It's worth the money. Like put your car keys in there, put your wallet in there.
Yeah.
Like I've known people that, having worked at the water parks, how many like times we'd find like a wallet in the lazy river, like they have it in their pocket, but it's not zipped or secured, and
they lose it.
it. Like, so yeah, lock those valuables up.
And it's for the day. If you do a locker too, you can get in and out of it.
You can get in and out as much as you want. And if there's stuff that you want to have on you, buy one of those little phone pouches. You can even buy them at the water park because I forgot mine once, so I totally bought one. You can put your phone in there, and you can fit like some cash in there if you want, or a few things.
Yeah. And you can, and like we were mentioning, you can either wear them on most of the attractions. You can for sure wear them in like the lazy river. And then there might just be a couple of like the water slides where they tell you to just hold it in your hand. So the great news is like, so that's how I go around the water parks is I have my waterproof case, like pouch that I carry everything around in that I'm like, I don't want to, and I'm taking pictures of the whole time too. But this way you have all of your valuables with you. You don't have to worry about like leaving them somewhere unattended. And if I did have something else that was valuable, I would for sure like lock it up in a locker. So be cautious with that, friends. Disney is pretty safe, but things happen, and sometimes even by accident.
Exactly.
I think the funniest thing I ever saw happen was a squirrel broke into someone's bag and ate their lunch.
Oh, wow. So that really can happen. I mean,
yeah, you just never know.
You don't know.
Like,
I love it.
Yeah.
So, Amy Blades, can you tell us how can people, so we kind of mentioned like the complimentary access with your Walt Disney World resort stay, but how do people get access to the water parks?
Well, I mean, you can pay for it separately. Or if you're doing a package, you can add the water parks and more, which is always an option that I recommend if I have clients that are going in the summer, specifically in those hotter months. I don't necessarily always recommend it in the winter, but you can pay for a ticket if you just want to go one day. But if you really calculate how much it's going to cost and you look at adding the option to being able to go during your length of stay, I recommend that a lot.
Yeah. Because what people often don't realize is if you do, so like, let's say you do a 4-day park ticket to like the theme parks. If you add the water park and sports option, you're going to get 4 visits potentially to the water parks as well. So, you know, if you're like, hey, and a lot of times it's like, it's actually cheaper to just add the water park and sports option onto your 4-day ticket than to go buy a separate 1-day water park ticket. So
I agree.
Like, again, I do the same thing. Like, if people are going during the summer, it's a really good add-on for them.
I think
and if you're like, we're not sure, like, it's easier. Like, it's easier to add. Like, most people end up using it and use it more than they thought that they would.
I would agree. I've had people say, like, I'm so glad that you told me not just, you know, that I wanted to do the one day. We ended up going like 3 times. I've had people that'll get up and go early to the park, kind of go, and then go back to take a little bit of a break. They'll go hang out like in the lazy river or something instead of going back to the pool. And I recommend
you and Kat, you and I like to use it as like our rest day.
Yes.
In the middle of the trip too, right?
Yeah. And we also used it when we went to the Christmas party. Because until later in the day. So we went to the water park that morning, spent some time there relaxing, and then we went back, showered, took naps, and then we went to the Christmas party that night.
Yep. Yeah.
I like that you can kind of break it up however you want if you add it.
That's a great rest day because you still are doing something. Because you're on vacation and you're at Disney, you're like, I need to do something.
Right.
But then you're like, you're also tired. So you're doing something, but you're relaxing and like
at the
have
same
a lot
time.
of joint issues. And going in that lazy river and just floating and being in the water is a huge help. Like, it's so helpful.
Yeah. I do the same thing. Like if I'm doing
have a
like
question
go ahead.
About especially with it being cool and being cold, is the water heated?
Yes.
Like the pools are?
Yes. Everything except the family raft ride at Blizzard Beach, because the amount of water it takes to like run it, they just can't heat it, like keep up. But the rest are they're heated.
Because I've usually only been in the summer when you don't want them heated. So
right. And in the summer they don't heat it. They like
no, for sure.
Yeah. And then fun fact, like the melting snow actually goes through things to make it colder. So
okay. Well,
yeah.
I love it. But speaking of the recovery piece too, for people to be aware of, like, again, we talked about Run Disney on our last podcast episode. If you haven't checked that out, go listen to that one as well. But water parks is one of my favorite things to do during a Run Disney race weekend, because it's so hard. You're putting so many miles on your feet already doing like the races and the events that, yes, I do still go to the theme parks, but going to the water park for a couple hours in the middle of the afternoon and just floating in the lazy river, it helps like decompress the spine. It helps to release some pressure in the joints. It just makes your whole body feel better. And if you're like me and you're doing multiple Run Disney races in the same weekend, in between those races, go do the water park, because helps your body feel way more refreshed and prepared for your next day events too, for sure. So again, like just add on the water park edition because it's so much easier.
It's
and then you
worth
get
it.
multiple visits. So, all right. Well, on that note, it is time for Amy's All In. And if you are not sure quite what this is just yet, this is literally where we tell you what we are all in about, usually related to whatever that podcast episode is. And if we have a guest, don't worry, they're going to share their all in with you as well. So today, our all in is going to be, shocker, about the water parks. So at the Walt Disney World water parks, we need to know what is like the one thing that you cannot miss, that you absolutely have to do. And I think, Amy Blades, you've already started to allude to yours. So do you want to go first with your Amy's
Heck
All
yes, let's do it. I'll go first. So right before I get to the Amy's All In, I just want to mention that the water parks are not just for all of the rides, all of the slides, I really think it is also a place that you can go to relax. The lazy river is my favorite thing to do. That's typically what I do. I don't do a lot of the other stuff, which leads to my all in. I am all in on the cabana rental. I think that it's worth it. It's worth having the shade. It's worth having the space. It's worth knowing that you have a place to sit. You can get taken care of and pampered throughout the day. So mine is, being able to go in the lazy river and then being able to go chill in the cabana. So my all in.
I love it. I love it. Okay.
I know you're surprised.
I'm super shocked. Super shocked. All right, Kat, do you have an all in for us? Like what, and it could be in either of the water parks. What is your like all in for the water park?
Family raft rides.
Okay.
I love them. I love Misadventure Falls at Typhoon. I love Teamboat Springs at Blizzard Beach. It's just a great time with whoever you're traveling with, that you just all get to be together and just laugh and be silly.
I love it. I love it. That's a good time. I think I already alluded to mine also earlier in this podcast episode, and probably no one is shocked, but my all in is the lazy river, specifically at Blizzard Beach, because you do not have to get your hair wet. Those who get it. Like if you have long hair and you don't like to wash your hair every day, it's a process, right? So it's like, I love to just go float in the lazy river. It doesn't matter what type of trip I'm doing, whether it's a Run Disney trip or I'm trying to get content in the parks. Floating in that lazy river makes me feel better, makes me feel more refreshed, and it's just absolutely fabulous. But I think all three of us can agree we are all in general on the water parks that people should for sure go.
Sure.
Right?
For sure. At least experience it once.
I think they're just so overlooked. And
I do too.
I also think you think water park, it's a Disney water park. You have to remember that. So you're having that Disney theming. It's not just an average water park. It's a Disney water.
For sure. Okay, Amy Blades, let's say somebody's like, I'm sold. Now I want to go and do the Disney water parks and go to Disney. How can people get there?
Disney? So they need to reach out to a Goofy Getaways travel consultant by going to our website, which is www.goofygetaways.com. Or, of course, you can check out our social media, Instagram and Facebook, and TikTok too. We're trying to get a little bit, grow our TikTok a little bit.
Assuming it doesn't get banned.
Yeah, so we've been a little hesitant to say that, but remember that our services are complimentary when you book a package with us. So if you're looking for fun at the water park, or you're looking for fun, any type of vacation, whether it's a park, an all-inclusive, a luxury vacation, Goofy Getaways is absolutely your go-to. So thank you, Amy.
100%. Yes.
Thank you, Kat.
Yeah, thank you.
Hopefully you made it through your first podcast.
It was
with
fun.
us.
It's a good time, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
We're a blast for sure.
Obviously.
Of course.
It's a good
So
time.
we will have some footage. Amy and I will have some footage coming up for you of our next water park day.
Yeah, stay tuned. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be in warmer weather. It's probably not going to be for a hot second.
I feel like I need to be there to experience.
Well,
You
let's
probably
go.
do.
Let's
You
go.
probably do.
We need you to be our tour guide. Like, I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
That when I went through the water park with Kat and she's like, this is this. And she's like, did you know that like that tree stump, it's actually an emergency phone for the lifeguards. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like,
I
this
did not
is
know
so
that.
cool. Like, you just never know. So
Oh, my
hopefully you
goodness,
all
but-
enjoyed this episode as well. You enjoyed hearing from Kat, our resident lifeguard, and somebody who also really understands accessibility around the Disney parks and was able to share some of those tips with you as well. Amy and I always have a good time hosting you all on these podcast episodes. So please continue to like, save, share, comment, and let us know what episodes you want to hear as well. We are going to flip a little switch for our next podcast episode, so please stay tuned. But we're going to talk to you about Universal Orlando, and we are going to talk to you about a VIP tour and why it is probably one of the most valuable experiences on a park day in
100%.
park.
I'm really excited about that podcast.
It's going to be a really good podcast episode. We're really excited to share that topic with you. But again, if there are more topics that you want to hear, please be sure to let us know. Like, save, and share. Follow us on social media. And Amy,
I was just
anything
gonna
else?
say, podcast. Yeah, don't forget about the podcast too. On YouTube, you can share it. You can like it. All of the likes, we appreciate so very, very much. But everything that Amy just said. Other than that, I'm really looking forward to our next podcast. But for now, we will see ya
real soon.
If you liked today's episode of the Goofy Getaways podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. And remember to follow Goofy Getaways on social media so we can lead you to the magic.